but when it comes to the percentage play, I don't know why the Lakers are trailing 3-1 in the series. I would put JJ Redick's coaching or managing rotations at the bottom.
Hello and welcome back to the Sports Night interview. Today we're talking NBA playoffs with our guy, Mark Medina. Mark, it's been a long time no talk. We appreciate you making a few minutes for us here today.
Appreciate it as well. It's always fun to talk NBA and all the different storylines.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of storylines going on right now. We're gonna keep our focus out in the Western Conference though. Let's first start with that Lakers T-Wolves series. The Lakers blew the 10-point lead on Sunday night, and they are now staring at a 3-1 deficit. I want to ask you a little bit about coaching in this series. I think that JJ Redick, his lack of experience is starting to come to the forefront a little bit. When you look at the number of minutes for the Lakers on their roster and how much only a few guys really have played in the series. Really, he's only played 6 guys, really 5, but a 6-man rotation. And I think you see that now starting to take an effect on the Lakers, particularly in the fourth quarters, where they've been outscored in this series 105-69. And so the Lakers just have kind of run out of gas here in the fourth quarters. Do you think that Redick deserves any criticism for the way he's managed this team in the playoffs, or has the lack of depth kind of forced his hand to go with only a specific set of 5 or 6 guys?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever blameless when it comes to losses, but when it comes to the percentage play, I don't know why the Lakers are trailing 3-1 in the series. I would put JJ Redick's coaching or managing rotations at the bottom. I think it's more to the broader point that you outlined that the Lakers have some personnel issues defensively. LeBron James and Luka Doncic are great, but LeBron's 40 years old, 22nd season. He's going to run out of gas at some point, sometimes make brilliant plays, sometimes make head-scratching plays. Luka Doncic has mostly been good, but he had some health issues in game 3, related to, some stomach bugs. So that limited him. And also, we've seen for better and for worse, the Luka Doncic kind of game where it's very ISO heavy. Sometimes that brings a lot of great shots, but also leads to stagnant ball movement. So, look, JJ Redick, yes, it is his first year as head coach, but I don't think that he's necessarily overwhelmed with anything. That's not to say he hasn't made mistakes, but I think the broader reason why the Lakers are trailing 3-1 is personnel issues defensively, Luka and LeBron health, and the Wolves have been a really great team. We've seen Anthony Edwards take his game to another level. Guys like Naz Reid and Jade McDaniels hit a lot of key shots. Julius Randle being a lot more aggressive when getting to the basket. So you combine all those things up together, and the Lakers are on the brink of elimination here.
Yeah, absolutely. Staying with Redick here for a minute, we saw him make the adjustment at halftime where he immediately inserted Dorian Finney-Smith into the lineup. What other adjustments can he possibly make in the games that remain that could help get the Lakers back in the series? Could we see him decide to start Finney-Smith possibly here in Game 5?
Yeah, he very well could be, but I would say, in fairness to Rui Hachimura, he has played very well, reasonably speaking, for what his role is as a role player. I'll be honest with you, I don't think there's really any adjustments JJ Redick could make that would make the team better. Yes, he could play Dalton Connect more, but one, he's a rookie. Two, yes, he provides outside shooting, but that hasn't been the Lakers' weakness. Their weakness has been perimeter defense, and Dalton Connect, his playing time waned throughout the season because he wasn't offering enough defensively. I think really the best course of effort is making the best of what you have. And that's not ideal, but that's most realistic. And so what is that realistic pathway? You hope that LeBron still has enough in him to have a good performance. You hope that Luka is past his stomach bug and that he resists the temptation of always trying to do too much on his own. You want to create your own shot, but when it leads to stagnant ball movement, he's got to be better with that.
Yeah.
And then as far as what they do defensively, they're a flawed defensive roster, and so it comes down to making the best of a lot of effort, throwing different combinations when it comes to perimeter defenders. But when it comes outside of guys like Gabe Vincent and Rui Hachimura, they don't have elite perimeter defenders. You look at their size. Jackson Hayes, he's been up and down. There's a reason he didn't play a lot in the beginning of the series because he was getting in foul trouble. He didn't seem to be a good matchup with Rudy Gobert. So, yeah, I don't want to say he's run out of adjustments to make, but he's run out of good adjustments to make. So if they're going to come back in the series, it's going to require a gallant effort from all those three parties I outlined: LeBron, Luka, and any perimeter defenders they can muster together with their flawed team.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of the things that we're discussing here are things that are very difficult to address in the middle of a season or in a series. So I guess what I want to do is look ahead a little bit to the Lakers offseason. We know they need to add more depth, particularly at center. There's a lot of question marks on this roster right now. The future of LeBron James, you mentioned his age and the number of seasons he's played, still playing at a pretty high level for a guy with his experience. But what can you forecast about what the Lakers offseason may look like?
Yeah, I think it's going to be very fluid. I don't think this is LeBron's last season. He's under contract, number one, but number two, I think the fact that they got Luka Doncic, even though there's some challenges, the Lakers have secured themselves to have that next generational star, both
Mhm.
during the transition phase during LeBron's last years and whenever he retires. I think that can make him feel inclined to want to play more. It's a matter of what do they do with the rest of the supporting cast. I think uh, the thing number one is upgrading at the center spot. They try to do that after the Luka Doncic trade with getting Mark Williams from Charlotte, but then they, from the Lakers' perspective, found some issues with his medical data that gave them second thoughts on his durability. Um, so I think that when we're looking at the Lakers, yes, they're defined by immediate championships. They want to go on a prolonged run, but they made this Luka Doncic trade not necessarily for this season. It was
Mhm.
for the longer play. Yes, they want to go on a deep playoff run. They want to win a championship. They're not going to be content with the first round playoff exit or even a second round playoff exit if they somehow survive this series. But I think when you talk to the Lakers when they made the Luka trade in January or in February, they knew that this sets them up long term, and they also knew short term that this could set them up for some challenges with just the integration process and also trying to adjust defensively without Anthony Davis. And
Yeah.
so they were very much anticipating, expecting this kind of offseason. And just because they're facing an early playoff exit, it doesn't necessarily change that.
Doesn't change things up. Yeah. All right. Let's jump over to the one of the other series here in the Western Conference, the Clippers and the Nuggets. This one has a lot of interest, in my opinion. It is now tied up 2-2. The Nuggets stunned the Clippers with that last second putback dunk by Aaron Gordon. And oftentimes in sports, we hear about momentum shifts, right? And so my question to you is, did that win for the Nuggets, who have mostly been outplayed in this series to this point, the Clippers have looked like the better team? Did that win, or could that win inject some life into the Nuggets and propel them to win this series?
Well, very well could because they got home court advantage back. Playing in the altitude in Denver's never challenging. But I think the very difficult thing about the playoffs, when you look historically, very rarely is there a momentum from game to game,
Mhm.
barring a major injury from either team. A lot of times, games have their own identity. And I would also say, with the exception to when a team is up 3-0, no team has ever come back in NBA history from that. But those two caveats aside, being down 3-0, having a major injury from either team, usually game to game has its own unique storyline. And so, even though the Nuggets won in dramatic fashion, I don't think that this necessarily changes the tenor of the series. I thought that Game 3 was an aberration where the Nuggets ran out of gas.
Mhm.
The Clippers were at home, first home game at Intuit Dome. That was kind of a lightning in the bottle. What I'm expecting moving forward is what we saw games 1, 2, and 4, where both of these teams are pretty evenly matched, and therefore it's going to come down to the final possessions where literally anything can happen.
Yeah, when you look around at the series that still remain, if you had to choose one that's destined for 7 games, would it be the Clippers and Nuggets series here?
I think so because it's tied 2-2. I think going into the series, there was a thought that both of these teams are evenly matched because the Nuggets, yes, they're coming off their championship run from 2 years ago. They have Nikola Jokic, who's a triple double machine and one of the MVP candidates, but they've dealt with obviously a lot of turbulence with injuries and inconsistency with Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., the recent firings to their head coach with Michael Malone, their general manager, Calvin Booth. Where with the Clippers, their issues came at the beginning of the season with adapting to having another absence with Kawhi Leonard to miss the first 34 games, but they were finally playing their best basketball toward the end of the season with a healthy Kawhi, James Harden playing all-star caliber level, as well as having a lot of good roster depth with Ivica Zubac emerging as a really good dominant center. That I think you can make the case after Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid is the next best center in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
And Norman Powell, a great player that seamlessly transitioned as a really great six man of the year candidate to someone that was a borderline all-star candidate this season. But these teams are so evenly matched that it could go either way. And I expect to go into this season or into the playoffs that this would be a 7-game series. With Lakers Wolves, it was so up in the air. I don't think the Lakers were going to sleepwalk through the Wolves. They're a very good team, but it seemed like going into that series, it tilted a little heavier toward the Lakers because of LeBron, because of Luka, because they were surprisingly really good defensively to close out the season. But as we saw in this playoffs, it's one thing to play well defensively in the regular season, much different when it's the playoffs against the same opponent that has the chance to make those kind of adjustments.
Mark Medina joining us here on the Sports Night interview. And Mark, I want to get into the Warriors Rockets series, which has been a tough series as well. It's been an interesting, entertaining series at that. The Warriors are up 2-1 game 4 Monday night, and the Rockets have had a tough time containing Steph Curry, as most teams across the league have had a tough time containing him throughout his career. But even without Jimmy Butler, the Warriors were able to get the win in game 3. How much of a factor do you think it is that the Warriors have a more battle tested roster, with guys like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green, Steph Curry, of course, who have been in these big moments, versus a roster like the Rockets, who they haven't been in these positions quite as often? Do you think that's a major factor here in the series?
It is a factor, but I don't think it's the major factor because when you're looking at the Rockets' identity, yes, most of the players have not been to the playoffs before, but this Rocket roster, even though they're young, they're a lot more mature. They have great physicality, great defenders, and then when you're looking at the nitty gritty, they have some key veterans on that team that have been playoff tested. Fred VanVleet with the Toronto Raptors, he won a championship during their title run in 2019. Dylan Brooks, he hasn't won a championship yet, but he's gone through his own ups and downs already in the playoffs. Ime Udoka, very seasoned, proven head coach that played a major factor in the Boston Celtics getting to the NBA Finals in 2022. So even though technically it's a young team and experience, they have a lot of veteran reinforcements that are guardrails with that. But I would say on the Warriors end, where they do have the advantage, it's not the experience. It's more of the fact that they have Steph Curry, Draymond Green. They're still playing at a high enough level that it's not a noticeable drop off compared to what they showed during their championship contending years. I think another nice development that the Warriors have shown is that unlike the regular season, they have been able to prove that they can win a high stakes game even if Jimmy Butler's now on the floor. That's one of the reasons why they got Jimmy Butler in the first place, that they felt like if they're going to ride on Steph Curry and Draymond Green, it's still not good enough because they don't have enough consistent supporting cast players. But in game 3, not only did you see Steph Curry raise his game to another level and make the adjustments to play through the physicality, but you had players like Buddy Hield and Gary Payton II really elevate their game to provide a complementary scoring role. They've already done this before, so I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but they didn't always do it on a day-to-day basis in the regular season. But these players are gamers, and it could have come at the right time. So what this means moving forward, they need Jimmy Butler back as soon as they can. That dramatically changes the series. And if not, really anything can happen. The Warriors have the formula to be able to replicate that, but I would say, in fairness to Houston, they also have the defensive formula to, get another win like they did in game 2.
Right. And they really made Steph Curry work for those 36 points that he had. And from a fan's perspective, I hope we get some length out of this series. So I wouldn't mind seeing the Rockets tie this thing up at 2-2 here on Monday night. Now, I'll get you out of here on this final topic here. The Oklahoma City Thunder, they rolled in their series, getting the sweep. Is there anybody, left in the Western Conference that can even slow this team down? I mean, is the Thunder, do you think it's almost automatic that they reach the NBA Finals?
I do. I think there's so much separation between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the rest of the Western Conference playoff field that they're going to get to the NBA Finals. Now, they can't just sleepwalk through it, but the good thing that the Thunder have shown is they're the youngest team in NBA history to have a number 1 seed in the Western Conference because they've been so consistently dominant. I mean, they have checked almost every single box. They have an MVP candidate, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who has shown that he's just not really great at scoring. He's versatile at scoring. He's an improved playmaker. He's a more willing defender, but they have just so much perimeter wing depth, with Jalen Williams, with Alex Caruso, with Cason Wallace, with Lou Dort. What that means in the playoffs is that they're not going to have the definitive answer to shut down an NBA superstar, but they have 4 options to make it exhausting and irritating. Yeah. They have front court depth with Isaiah Hartenstein, Chet Holmgren, great pick and roll partners for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and great defenders. They have addressed some of those weaknesses last season, which was playoff inexperience. They're no longer overwhelmed with the moment, and they're a much better rebounding team. So I think it's inevitable. Punch your ticket to the NBA Finals for the Thunder, but it's still up in the air. Is this enough to win a championship? Because the Celtics, they're still really good. They got most of their core back. Yep. They're championship tested, obviously. And the Cleveland Cavaliers have been very, very good. I mean, they have been dominant against the Miami Heat, and they have shown that they are a complete team on both ends of the floor, both in execution and team chemistry. So what I'm getting at is it might be an uneventful Western Conference Finals, but it'll be a very eventful NBA Finals featuring the Oklahoma City Thunder and whoever winds up out on top between Cleveland and Boston in the East.
Absolutely. And depth was a major part of our conversation here. And you touched on the depth that the Thunder have. The teams that we also talked about, the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, some of those teams, they just don't have that depth that the Thunder have. So it's no surprise that they're having the dominance that they've had all season and now into the playoffs. Mark Medina, thank you so much for your time. Make sure you go out there and follow Mark on X. You can follow him at Mark_G_Medina. He's one of my favorite NBA follows. He keeps you updated with everything going on in the league. He covers it like a glove. Mark, thank you so much for the time.
Evan, appreciate you as well. Always enjoyed talking NBA with you.